Welcome back to the channel, y'all. It's been a while. It probably been about 2 weeks since I last reacted to some anime. Who is Thragg? Comment down below. Who are the Viltrumites? Does anybody know? If y'all know, let me know. I just found out about these niggas not too long ago. And what are they power levels? Are they comparable to Saiyans? Are they comparable to Kryptonians? Are they what's going on with them? Because from what I see, they seem like they're pretty strong, and I've seen a couple of convincing cases to where people might be like, "Oh yeah, Superman will wipe the map off with them niggas," and probably Goku too. But I don't know. I think there's some strong cases out there against that. But I want to say that was that only pertaining to Omni-Man Nolan, or was that Thragg? Because this Thragg nigga, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen the last couple of episodes of Invincible. This Thragg nigga, he's nuts. He's like calm, and then like I don't know, like he seems powerful as fuck. Like y'all know what it is if y'all seen Invincible. If y'all haven't, I don't want to spoil it for you. But today on the channel, we got us a little video about the Viltrumites, actually, about Thragg, and we're gonna check it out. We're gonna watch it together as I get.
The story begins thousands of years ago on a distant planet, Viltrum, home to the most powerful alien species in the universe.
I got my snacks too,
Viltrumites are indistinguishable from humans, but possess incredible strength, speed, and durability. Okay. They can also fly and age slowly, with lifespans that can last thousands of years. Under the leadership of their emperor, Argal, the empire grew rapidly. Viltrumites followed the philosophy of survival of the fittest, believing that eliminating the weak would strengthen their race. Okay. While their conquered territory suffered, Viltrum itself was described as a paradise.
So are they based on Kryptonians? Because it's kind of like it sounds like kind of like an evil Kryptonian type of thing.
And Argal was revered for his wisdom and leadership. Not everyone, however, agreed with imperial expansion. One Viltrumite, Thetis, later named the Great Betrayer, rebelled against the Empire and assassinated Argal. This action resulted in devastating consequences. While Argal had heirs, all of them were hidden and kept anonymous to shield.
Did he stab a bone through this nigga's head? Am I tweaking? How do we go back to that?
Resulted in devastating consequences. While Argal had heirs, all of them were hidden and kept anonymous to shield them from the Empire's many enemies. Okay. In the ensuing chaos, the Viltrumites decided to cull the weak to find the heir. This grew into a conflict known as the Great Purge, which lasted for centuries. In the end, the Viltrumite population was cut in half, and they emerged as an unbeatable race led by a new ruler, Thragg. Thragg wasn't like other Viltrumites. He was essentially a product of eugenics, bred to be the strongest among his race, and trained in all manners of combat from birth to assume the title of Grand Regent. He made it his life's mission to find Argal's heir and avenge his death. He kept the Emperor's skull as a reminder of how easily command could be.
This is the skull that this nigga just stabbed in with another bone, so he kept the nigga's skull. So the new ruler, Thragg was the new ruler after Argal, or whatever this nigga name is. So Argal was the ruler. There was a great race. Thetis assassinated him, right? Thragg took over, decided, hey, y'all niggas is weak. We're going to cut the whole population in half. Does this not sound like... I'll continue, y'all. I'll continue. This ain't about that. This stream ain't about
Lost. Under Thragg's leadership, the Empire continued to grow, but one monumental weapon would forever halt their expansion. Thetis, after assassinating Argal, left the Empire and founded the Coalition of Planets, an organization that united various worlds against Viltrumite aggression. Using Thetis' DNA, they created a virus that would devastate the Viltrumite population. It was named the Scourge virus, and its effects were catastrophic. The virus weakened Viltrumites and rendered their regeneration useless. Those who survived the virus would usually succumb to death later due to their weakened state. If a Viltrumite sustained an injury while exposed to the virus, the wound would remain permanently.
This nigga got on the Thanos glove?
ignoring their inherent regenerative abilities, which is why some surviving Viltrumites of the modern era wear prosthetics. Each year, the virus claimed countless victims until the death toll grew so great that the dead bodies formed a ring around the planet, serving as a monument to the fallen. In the end, more than 99% of all Viltrumites succumbed to the virus, leaving their population reduced to fewer than dozen. They kept this a secret, with the rest of the universe still believing that Viltrumites possessed the same numbers as before. Believing that Argal's heir died during the virus, Thragg has halted the search. As a result of this catastrophe, Viltrumite's strategy changed. They now focus more on survival than expansion. They devised a new plan to rebuild their population. Viltrumites would send one member of their race to live on an alien world to see if they were genetically compatible with Viltrumite DNA. With that mission in mind, one Viltrumite, now On, was sent to Earth. He simplified his name to Nolan to sound more Earth-like and settled on the planet. He presented himself as a superhero, claiming to come from a benevolent alien race with extraordinary abilities that sought to help other worlds. On Earth, he met his wife Debbie and adopted her last name Grayson. Together they had a son, Mark, a boy who would forever change the history of the universe.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by...
Didn't catch that one, y'all. We got it.
This was the origin story of both Thragg and Invincible, two of the biggest rivals in the franchise. In many ways, they represent two extreme sides of the ideological spectrum. Mark is an altruistic hero who seeks to reform his people and use his power for good, while Thragg clings to the old ways, still preaching strength, conquest, and expansion above all else. The battle between these two ideologies plays a central role in the Invincible comics, and we'll explore it in great detail. In today's video, we'll go over the rivalry between Thragg and Invincible, their first encounter, their subsequent conflicts, and their final battle. Thragg is, in many ways, the final boss of the franchise and stands out as one of its most enduring villains. The comic makes sure to give him concrete motivations that go beyond mere universal domination. He's far more complex than most other villains in the series, so this is going to be interesting. Let's begin. Part 1. The Viltrumite War. Thragg's first actual appearance in the comics happens in Invincible Returns. After Conquest is defeated and escapes captivity, he arrives at a Viltrumite ship. There, he's scolded for his failure by General Craig, the right-hand man of Thragg. Conquest is then asked to bow and is forced to apologize. In response, Thragg calls him a rabid animal who's useful for only one task, and yet he failed. The Grand Regent asks what further use Conquest could possibly have. Conquest begs for forgiveness, and surprisingly, Thragg agrees. He says that he's learned Omni-Man is heading toward Earth to recruit his son. Conquest is assigned to intercept their ship and is given a chance to defeat Mark. Thragg gives him only one directive: leave no one alive. His intel was actually correct. After joining the Coalition, Omni-Man revealed the Viltrumite secret, that fewer than 50 of them remain. With that information, the Coalition planned an assault, but they needed heavy hitters. Nolan went to Earth with Alan not only to recruit Mark, but also Tech Jacket, bolstering their ranks. Oliver joined them as well, although Nolan originally wanted him to stay on Earth. Together they boarded the Coalition ship and headed toward Telescria, the Coalition's homeworld. On their way, however, they were intercepted by Conquest and two other Viltrumites. The group was separated, with Mark forced to fight the villain alone. In the end, he killed Conquest but was gravely injured. Nolan and Oliver rushed to his aid, but his recovery would take months. In the meantime, Alan and Tech Jacket fought alongside the Coalition, liberating planets from Viltrumite control. Due to their small numbers, the Viltrumite forces were too spread out and couldn't fight back efficiently. Unknown to Thetis, however, the Coalition had been infiltrated by a spy who was feeding information directly to Thragg. The traitor was ordered to shut down Telescria's defenses, and the Viltrumites made their move. Their objective was to kill the Coalition's leader, Thetis, and throw the organization into disarray. Thragg also had a personal grievance, seeking to avenge Argal's death. As Thetis was delivering a speech to an assembly, they were suddenly attacked by Viltrumite forces who began ravaging the planet. He immediately called in Alan and Tech Jacket, who arrived quickly, but that wasn't enough. Even a couple of Viltrumites were enough to devastate the planet. The Coalition...
Would you get with a Viltrumite to save their race? Questions. This is questions that we have. It's like 12 of them niggas left. if a Viltrumite lady or man, whatever you guys are into, well, I feel like it would have to be in order to save their race. I feel like it would have to be like a hetero thing, right? Would you do it to save their race? Knowing that they probably gonna conquer Earth, probably not. But would you want to have like a super strong like kid? You get what I'm saying? Like a superhero child that grows up to be. But would they care about their earthly parents, or would they like as soon as they're born, would they be like assimilated into the Viltrumite like doctrine? These are questions that we have, bro. Well, questions that I have, but y'all know how I get down. Let's continue.
Forces were overwhelmed, and Thetis began considering retreat. At that moment, however, Mark returned, accompanied by Nolan and Oliver. They were the heavy hitters the Coalition desperately needed. Using their combined strength, Mark and Oliver destroyed the Viltrumite battleship orbiting the planet. Although Thragg considered intervening personally, he decided not to act hastily and ordered everyone to retreat. Seeing their commanders abandon them, the aliens fighting for the Viltrumites surrendered. Thetis then confronted the traitor and demanded information. He was forced to reveal that the Viltrumites, all of them, were heading toward their home planet to regroup and stage a counterattack. Knowing they could not fight all the Viltrumites at once, Thetis decided to act. The group was joined by Battle Beast and Space Racer, and they launched an attack on Viltrum. As they approached the planet, Mark noticed that it was surrounded by dead bodies. Thetis explained their origins, saying that nothing remained of the Viltrum he once knew. Among the dead bodies, however, hid Thula, who attacked the invaders and called others to join her. A massive fight broke out in the planet's orbit. The Viltrumites outnumbered the Coalition's forces, but the Coalition had an ace up its sleeve. Space Racer revealed that he had brought Ragnars, beastly creatures strong enough to kill a Viltrumite. Thragg ordered his forces to avoid them at all costs. As the battle continued, some Viltrumites were killed, and Mark attempted to confront Thragg directly, unaware of his true power. Oliver joined as well, greatly underestimating their enemy. With a single swing, Thragg broke Oliver's hand and jaw, nearly killing him. This enraged Mark, who unleashed a barrage of punches, but it had little to no effect. During the battle, Mark mentioned that he had beaten Conquest. This revelation stunned the other Viltrumites, and using this window of opportunity, Thetis ordered his forces to gather. Space Racer unleashed a blast toward Viltrum. Thetis, Mark, and Nolan followed the blast, and together they impacted the planet, destroying it entirely. The blast was so massive that several combatants lost consciousness. Thragg, however, remained unscathed, but was devastated by the loss. This is actually one of the few times we see him show emotion in the entire series. Thetis told him that he now had no empire and nothing left to fight for. He urged him to surrender, but Thragg replied that he still had something to fight for: revenge. With a single swoop, he decapitated Thetis, killing him on the spot. He then declared that Argyle had finally been avenged and crushed Thetis' head, saying he would not be missed. He later turns his attention to the rest of the fighters, telling them that they were next. He first attacked Invincible, saying that he had destroyed both of their heritages. He had apparently planned to make a triumphant return to Viltrum after their numbers were replenished, but that was now impossible. Omni-Man joins the battle, and Thragg scolds him. He reminded Nolan that he was once one of their greatest warriors, but was now siding with a man who betrayed the Empire. Omni-Man responded that he was not the same man he once was, and now believed that his people deserved nothing but extinction for what they had done to the universe. Realizing their plan was not working as intended, Space Racer decided to retreat. He managed to grab Alan and Tech Jacket, but Mark and Nolan were beyond his reach. He was forced to flee, leaving them alone with Thragg. Mark asked his father how they could defeat Thragg, to which Nolan responded that they couldn't. He was simply too strong. Thragg then launched a brutal assault. He first impaled Nolan, immobilizing him, and then began beating Mark. Surprisingly, however, he hesitated to kill them. Craig and the rest of the Viltrumites arrived and questioned why their leader was hesitating to kill the traitors. Thragg, however, asserted that their numbers had dwindled too much, and that they could not afford to kill other Viltrumites, regardless of whose side they were on. In the end, he decided to spare them. Mark and Nolan were later discovered by the Coalition and healed at their base. Mark was unconscious for 2 weeks and woke up to discover that Alan had assumed leadership of the Coalition after Thetis' death. He also revealed that Nolan and Oliver were both alive, though Oliver was still recovering. Tech Jacket then arrived and delivered a report. Apparently, they had not detected any Viltrumite activity since the battle ended. Mark, however, quickly put 2 and 2 together. He explained that he had destroyed Viltrum and that Thragg was seeking revenge. This could only mean one thing: the Viltrumites were headed to Earth to destroy it. As they boarded a ship and headed toward the planet, Mark couldn't stop thinking about what the Viltrumites might do once they arrived. He was plagued by visions of his friends and family being killed.
Damn.
As they approached Earth's orbit, Mark left the ship and flew toward the planet himself. Much to his surprise, he discovered nothing unusual. Life was continuing as normal. He told his father that the Viltrumites were not there, but suddenly Thragg entered the conversation and informed them that they very much were. Mark tried to attack him, but Thragg sought dialogue. He offered them a truce. The Grand Regent explained that following the war, there were only 37 Viltrumites left in the universe, more than enough to destroy the planet. He said that would have been fair retaliation for what Mark had done to his world, but he was not chosen as regent to seek revenge. Instead, he proposed a deal. Since Mark had taken Viltrum, Thragg would take Earth. He revealed that Viltrumites had already settled on Earth, hiding among the population. After seeing that Mark, a half-human hybrid, was indistinguishable from a pure-blooded Viltrumite, he determined that humans were a perfect genetic match. Viltrumites would stay on Earth, breed with the local population, and over the decades rebuild their numbers. In fact, they had already begun this mission. Thragg also added that Invincible could not do anything to stop them, since they could destroy Earth at any moment. He demanded an immediate answer. At first, Mark dismissed the deal as insanity. He would essentially be allowing his enemy to grow stronger and postponing the war to a later date. But knowing he had no other choice, he hesitantly agreed. The war was declared over, and Thragg left. Mark, however, felt uncertain. He did not feel victorious and expected the conflict to reignite. Meanwhile, as Alan assumed leadership of the coalition, he discovered a secret note left by Thetis. Thetis had apparently created a failsafe in case the war was lost, a modified sample of the Scourge virus that could eradicate all Viltrumites, but could also affect humans due to their genetic similarity. Alan now had a difficult decision to make.
Not me if I'm Alan. That nigga ain't human or Viltrumite. I would have been like, let him burn. Usher style.
Part 2. The Exile. After evaluating his options, Alan makes a drastic decision. The Viltrumites had eradicated his people, the Unopans, and he couldn't allow them to rebuild their numbers. Knowing that all Viltrumites were now on Earth, this was the only opportunity to rid the universe of the invaders. He reveals his plan to Omni-Man, who opposes him, believing that the virus might affect humans. A fight breaks out, but at this point in the story, Alan has grown so powerful that he easily defeats Nolan and heads toward Earth. Surprisingly, Oliver shares Alan's sentiment and accompanies him. Cecil detects their arrival and informs Mark. He meets them in orbit, and after hearing Alan's plan, he confronts him. Mark reminds Alan that his people were eradicated and that what he's about to do to humans is no different. Alan, however, defends his position, saying that if Viltrumites restore their numbers, countless other alien civilizations will meet the same fate. He believes that humanity is a worthy sacrifice for universal peace. A fight breaks out between the two friends, and suddenly a third party enters the battle. It is Thragg.
What do y'all think about that? If it was up to you guys, if you knew it was life on other planets and universes and it still exists, and there was a race of beings, of intergalactic beings that were strong enough to defeat, to basically wipe out the entire galaxy or universe, and they're on Earth, and there's a virus that you can spread to kill these beings, but it may also kill humanity. Is it worth it to save the rest of the universe? Probably not. Not to me. I like being human, dog.
Despite his hatred for Alan, Thragg restrains himself. Instead, he tries to resolve the conflict diplomatically. He says that he has enough speed to kill Alan instantly, but he knows Alan likely has other samples of the virus saved somewhere, which would return them to square one. Thragg also bluffs that not all Viltrumites might be on Earth. After all, the only reason anyone even possesses this information is because Thragg himself willingly shared it. After hearing Thragg out, Alan agrees. Earth's superheroes also arrive and attempt to arrest Invincible. Another fight breaks out, and in the chaos, Oliver seizes the opportunity to launch the virus. He heads toward Earth, but Mark stops him. In the end, the virus is accidentally unleashed, and only Mark becomes infected. To contain the virus and prevent its spread, Thragg places him into stasis. This is when he meets Cecil for the first time and reveals his plan for Earth. He believes that containing the virus is of utmost importance and personally monitors Invincible. Surprisingly, Thragg allows one person to examine Mark, Dinosaurus, a genius supervillain whom Mark had freed earlier. If you want to learn more about Dinosaurus, make sure to check out the dedicated video about him right here on the channel. Thragg later consults a scientist who's trying to find a cure, and the scientist discovers something extraordinary. After examining Mark's DNA, he uncovers that Mark is related to Argal, the fallen emperor of Viltrum.
Whoa.
After hearing this, Thragg kills the scientist, declaring that no one can know the truth. Sometime later, Thragg attempts to kill Invincible while he is still in stasis, so that everyone would believe he succumbed to the virus. But before doing so, Dinosaurus arrives and stops him. He, however, is no match for a Viltrumite, so he devises a plan. He had apparently planted bombs around the ship. This warship is the last remaining Viltrumite vessel and contains many items that Thragg considers valuable to the Empire's history. Not wanting it to be destroyed, Thragg leaves to address the situation. Dinosaurus then flees with Mark to his secret base, where Mark wakes up seemingly healthy, but without his Viltrumite powers. He's weak, unable to fly, and has no regeneration. For a time, Mark completely loses his superpowers, though he eventually recovers, supposedly due to his royal heritage. Thragg, meanwhile, abandoned his plan to kill Mark because he was encountering a much bigger issue. His plan to infiltrate Earth and rebuild the population wasn't going as intended. All Viltrumites had been ordered not to interfere with the affairs of Earth and to remain undetected, but General Craig went against the order. When the Flaxans tried to invade Earth yet again, Craig intervened to rescue one of his lovers. He'd apparently produced children with around a dozen women, but realized that he'd begun caring about all of them. Others had experienced problems as well. Anissa refused to procreate with humans altogether, seeing them as inferior, and Lucan refused to procreate with more than one woman. He explained that his partner had been hurt by her previous lover, and that he didn't want to do the same. It became clear that all Viltrumites were experiencing the same change as Omni-Man. They told Thragg that he didn't understand their transformation because he spent his time aboard a Viltrumite warship away from humanity, but he dismissed them. Out of frustration, he visited Omni-Man's home, who had now settled on the moon with Debbie. Believing him to be the main reason behind the change, Thragg attacked him. Nolan managed to save Debbie and then asked Thragg why he was violating the truce. The Grand Regent then revealed that he'd discovered that Mark, and by extension Omni-Man, were related to Argal the Great, the fallen emperor of Viltrum. This made Nolan the next in line for the Viltrumite throne, but Thragg was unwilling to give up his power to a traitor. Unknown to Thragg, other Viltrumites had overheard the conversation. Realizing that Nolan was the true heir, they sided with him. Thragg tried to talk them out of it, saying that Nolan was weak, but the Viltrumites asserted that they had followed Argal because of his wisdom, not his strength. They teamed up against Thragg and beat him senseless, but Nolan urged them to stop. Without question, the Viltrumites obeyed, and Thragg was later captured.
Oh my god!
Omni-Man then delivered a speech. He said that Thragg's plan to rebuild the Empire on Earth had been correct, but they would have to abandon their expansionist ways and instead embrace the change brought by their time on Earth. All Viltrumites saluted him, but Thragg was disgusted.
Hey, can you break this down for me?
The first step for using the quadratic...
Y'all. Oh my gosh, let me get this shit together. Wow, that's crazy, y'all. I did not know that they would. I did not know that the rest of the Viltrumites would hold on, because we gotta talk. Listen, no lie, y'all. I did not know that Nolan and Omni-Man were related to the Emperor of the Viltrumites. So this means they're next in line for the to be the king to be the rulers of the Viltrumites. And Thragg, he does not like that shit, y'all. He's not fucking with it. But I didn't know that the other Viltrumites would go to Earth, meet lovers, fall in love with them, just like Omni-Man did. I thought he was maybe like over time he was the only one that would get soft like that. But it seems as though all of them, when they go there and they experience human life and meet someone and find someone that they love, they change, which is crazy. I never thought to imagine that part of the story, which is wild. I like it. I can't wait for this part of the animation to come out. This part of animation, I feel, is gonna be so cool, so good. But until then, we can definitely, speculate and watch these type of things, because it's different than the animated series. I enjoy these, but it's different.
Executing him. Nolan then did something foolish, but also somewhat noble. He let Thragg go, saying that his punishment would be witnessing his people change for the better without him, and that by showing mercy, he was setting an example. Thragg fled, and when Alan was informed about Nolan's decision, he was furious. He began searching for Thragg to end the threat once and for all. He had one way to find him. Knowing that Thragg had not fled with a spaceship, there were only a few inhabited planets he could have visited while holding his breath. Alan sent Battle Beast to deal with him. The Coalition discovered Thragg's whereabouts on planet Thraxa, the birthplace of Oliver, and dispatched Battle Beast. He was accompanied by his lover and space racer, just in case. As Battle Beast landed on Thraxa, the shockwave was felt across the planet. Thragg immediately took notice and approached him, saying that they had fought once before and that Battle Beast had been easily defeated. That encounter, however, had not been on equal terms, as Battle Beast could neither fly nor breathe in space. Battle Beast replied that he only craved a worthy battle, and Thragg could provide that. Suddenly, Ragnars were unleashed. They were supposed to be released after Battle Beast's death, but his new lover didn't want him to die and decided to act. The Ragnars injured Thragg in the stomach, but much to everyone's surprise, Battle Beast fought on Thragg's side and attacked the Ragnars. He declared that he would not be denied glory and would accept no advantage. He grabbed his sword and sliced his
Battle Beast is Black Air Force energy, bro. He's Black Air Force energy in any character, like
own stomach to match Thragg's wound. As the two combatants locked eyes, they rushed toward each other, igniting one of the longest battles in the series. It was also revealed that Thragg was on Thraxa for a reason. He was producing Viltrumite half-breeds similar to Oliver in order to rebuild the Empire in a short amount of time. He had already produced several offspring and planned to have
Viltrumite seem like they have a type.
Many more.
Oh shit, why did that happen?
Meanwhile, Mark had left Earth and settled on Telestria with his new family. As he was adapting to life on an alien world, the comic would occasionally cut back to the battle between Thragg and Battle Beast. Their fight lasted for days and devastated the entire planet. Thragg fought especially ferociously, saying that he fought to save his people, while Battle Beast fought purely for the thrill. In the end, Thragg emerged victorious. He had lost his eye, and the planet had been devastated. He finished Battle Beast by crushing his heart, with the latter thanking him for providing a worthy battle and a glorious death. Alan was informed of this and sent Mark and Oliver to Thraxa, but by the time they arrived, Thragg had already left. The Grand Regent considered Battle Beast a worthy opponent, and to honor their glorious battle—
What the Oh my god, that just hurt my heart. Did y'all see me clutch my chest? This nigga just killed Battle Beast and draped him over his shoulders like a fucking fur coat, nigga. Like, and then he got the Thraxan hoes around him with the bikinis on in the aura. This is aura right here, bro. I hate that Battle Beast had to die, but this right here is number one main character, main villain aura right here, bro. I swear it is. He even got the dread. He even got the locks on my boy. This is crazy. I cannot believe this.
He adopted Battle Beast's hide as his royal mantle, using it as a symbol of both strength and victory. He then traveled across the universe, raising his children in secrecy. In an attempt to track Thragg down, Mark was sent to one of the alien planets he had visited. There, Mark was drawn to a strange cave and was transported back in time by a mysterious entity. He spent only a few weeks there, but when he returned, 5 years had passed. His daughter had grown up, and Thragg had rebuilt the Empire using an army of half-breeds to conquer various worlds. The Viltrum Empire was back and stronger than ever, setting the stage for the final battle.
This isn't about produce.
Man, why does YouTube just have so many of these? Like, bro, I'm gonna have to just pay for the Prime shit, because this is ridiculous at this point. I keep saying it and never do it, guys. Don't judge me.
Part 3. The End of All Things. After losing 5 years of his life, Mark was completely devastated. Seeing his daughter all grown up without him caused him to decide to quit working for Alan and focus on his family. The Coalition, however, desperately needed help. Thragg had amassed an army so massive that he had rebuilt the Empire, currently retaking lost territories one by one. The Grand Regent, however, didn't care about his children, using them as fodder. He apparently didn't even know most of their names. The children, meanwhile, worshipped him as an absolute authority, each seeking to win his approval. They even went as far as seeking death in combat, believing that this was the only way they would be noticed by their father. Thragg only truly cared about a few of his children, those who turned out to be the most powerful. Most notable among them were Ursol and Onan, twins.
Oh, no.
Apparently a rare phenomenon among Viltrumites, Thragg himself had grown significantly more powerful, pushing himself to his limits and becoming strong enough to defeat a Ragnar with his bare hands. The new Viltrumite empire had become so successful that Alan felt completely cornered and knew he had to make drastic decisions. Apparently, Oliver was working for Thragg as a double agent, and to prove his loyalty, Thragg gave Oliver one order: to do nothing. Thragg had apparently discovered Mark's location and planned an attack. Despite Oliver's insistence that such action was unnecessary, Thragg didn't listen. While spending time with his family on an alien planet, Mark was attacked by Ursal and Onan. Onan stood out among Thragg's children not only because of his strength, but also because of his personality. He was a complete psychopath who enjoyed killing and causing harm. He attacked Mark's daughter Tara, while Ursal engaged Adam Eve. Mark tried to flee with his daughter, but she struggled to breathe due to the immense speed. Mark was forced to slow down, allowing Onan to catch up. Tara fell toward the surface, with Onan restraining Mark and preventing him from catching her. As she descended further, Tara discovered that she could fly, a result of her Viltrumite heritage. At that point, Thragg arrived and caught her. He remarked that she was powerful for someone her age, but unfortunately, she had to die. Before he could do that, however, Oliver intervened. He engaged Thragg, allowing Tara to flee, but he was no match for the strongest Viltrumite. With one swing, Thragg impaled Oliver, killing him. He then approached Tara, but Mark and Eve arrived. They defeated and captured Onan, with Mark threatening to kill him if Thragg harmed his daughter. Thragg replied that Mark was too heroic, and that he didn't believe he would harm his son. In response, Mark declared that being a hero was foolish, and killed Onan in front of Thragg. He then engaged the Grand Regent himself, but it was futile. Thragg was simply too strong. Ursal also arrived and attacked Eve, crushing her jaw. Thragg then grabbed Mark and ripped him in half.
Bro, what is going on?
Leaving both of them in critical condition. He urged Ursal to leave them so they could die slowly, knowing they couldn't save their daughter. As the villains fled, Adam Eve's powers activated and she restored both herself and Mark to full health. Oliver, however, was already dead and could not be brought back. After this encounter, Mark decided to join Alan and deal with Thragg once and for all. The next day, at Oliver's funeral, Mark confronted Alan for assigning Oliver to such a dangerous mission. Unknown to Mark, however, Alan had set all the previous events in motion so that Thragg would attack Mark and drag him into the war. He hadn't expected Oliver to die and deeply regretted the decision. He came clean with Mark and Eve sometime later, and although they were both furious, Mark restrained himself. Instead, he put their differences aside to focus on dealing with Thragg. Alan asked Mark to convince Omni-Man to join the war. Apparently, Nolan had refused to participate since the Viltrumites had grown too attached to their lives on Earth. Mark tried to convince him, but he stood his ground. Invincible then reminded him that all of this was Omni-Man's fault, since he was the one who had spared Thragg. In the end, Nolan agreed to join personally, but he could not force the other Viltrumites to fight. Thragg, meanwhile, continued rebuilding his empire. Ursal served as a kind of commander, reporting their progress directly to him. Earlier, however, Ursal had run away to a remote cave, a place that apparently belonged to her brother Onan, who was now dead. When Thragg arrived, she told him that her brother had died and that he didn't care. He only saw them as fodder and nothing more. In response, Thragg assured her that she was wrong. He explained that Ursal and her brother were special to him, noting that there had not been a documented case of Viltrumite children being born since the Scourge virus. Ursal hugged him, and Thragg briefly showed a look of disgust before calming himself and promising that he would avenge her brother. Among the planets he had conquered was the homeworld of Battle Beast, which had surrendered without a fight. He then set his sights on conquering more alien worlds. Mark, now working with the Coalition, devised a plan to stop him. They launched an attack on Thragg's forces and captured one of his children. They then released him, and he fled toward the base, not knowing that he was being followed by Space Racer. After locating the base, Space Racer reported its position back to the Coalition. As Thragg returned from another conquest, he was greeted by one of his children with a welcoming gift, but he tossed them aside. This angered Ursal, who was later seen punching the walls in her room out of frustration. At that moment, the Coalition launched their attack. Surprisingly, Thragg was excited to see their arrival. He mobilized all his forces and ordered his children to gather around him. Alan noted that they had greatly underestimated the enemy's numbers, but Mark assured him that, if anything, this would help them with their plan. Mark and Eve engaged Thragg's children, who seemed to have no concern for their own well-being. They charged mindlessly, with many of them dying in the process. This strategy, while brutal, proved effective, and the Coalition was losing ground. Ursal returned to Thragg and informed him that the battle was won, though at a heavy cost. She urged her father to stop treating his children like cattle and to minimize casualties. In response, Thragg grabbed her by the neck and told her that those who died were weak, and those who survived would emerge
So you
stronger.
better
He
get
warned
with this
Ursula that
Viltrumite
unless she
shit.
wanted to join her siblings, she should stop questioning his judgment. As the coalition was overwhelmed, Alan ordered a retreat. Thragg pursued him, but this was part of Mark's plan. He knew that Thragg would follow and deliberately led him to an unexpected location. Earth. Knowing that the Viltrumites would not abandon their lives on Earth, he brought the fight to them instead, essentially forcing them to join. Omni-Man sent out a message mobilizing them. This transmission was apparently overheard by Robots, who was now in control of Earth and began planning to intervene as well. As Thragg and his forces approached the planet, the Viltrumites staged a surprise attack from behind the sun. The Grand Regent, however, was prepared to face his former allies in battle. He unleashed the Ragnars and, with their help, killed several Viltrumites. As Mark and his father arrived, Nolan declared that he would take on Thragg personally and attack the villain. A massive mistake. Thragg had grown so incredibly powerful that not even Omni-Man could harm him. A simple punch to Thragg's crisp hair immediately broke Nolan's arm. As Mark was overwhelmed by Thragg's children, he was forced to watch his father square off against the strongest Viltrumite. Knowing that Viltrumites cannot regenerate their hearts, Thragg targeted Omni-Man's chest. Nolan managed to dodge the first strike, but Thragg launched a second attack and slashed the hero in half. This enraged Mark, who broke free and attacked Thragg. He called him a madman, remarking that he had been chosen as regent to safeguard the survival of his people and was now ensuring their doom. Thragg responded that from the moment the Viltrumites turned on him, he'd consider the Empire to be dead. He called in his children to overwhelm Mark, referring to them as weak and disposable. As they attacked, Mark declared that he would not allow Thragg to kill any more of his children and dragged the villain toward the heart of the sun. Ursula had apparently overheard the entire conversation. Realizing that her father truly did not care about her, she ordered her siblings to surrender, effectively ending the war. Meanwhile, Mark fought Thragg in the scorching heat of the sun. Mark asked the villain that if he considered the Empire dead, why was he still fighting? Thragg responded that he sought revenge. He had ruled the Empire for thousands of years and refused to see it fall into the hands of a traitor. He intended to eradicate Mark's entire bloodline, which he considered treacherous. As they moved closer to the heart of the sun, Thragg tried to flee, but Mark restrained him. Knowing he could not defeat Thragg in direct combat, Mark resolved to ensure that he dies in the sun, even if it cost him his own life. Mark pushed himself to the limit, dragging Thragg deeper into the star. Both combatants began losing their skin and were unable to speak. Mark reflected that he was driven by the need to protect his loved ones, while Thragg was driven purely by revenge. Thragg clung to the old ways of his people, unable to accept change. As Mark grew weaker, unexpected help arrived. Robot sent one of his suits, buying Mark some much-needed time. Mark remarked that even his enemies had rushed to his aid, while Thragg was left completely alone, a result of his obsession with war and conquest. As the heat intensified, Mark's armor melted and both fighters grew too weak to continue. Mark finally finished his enemy by biting through his neck, but he himself was too weak to escape the sun. Just as he was about to succumb, Alan rushed to his aid. He found Mark and pulled him away just in time, leaving Thragg's body to melt in the sun's scorching heat. When Mark emerged, his body was completely burned, though he would eventually recover. Omni-Man, however, was not as fortunate. He was still alive, but in critical condition. Mark rushed to his room, begging his father not to die, but Nolan explained that his wounds were fatal and that he could not regenerate. With his final breath, he urged his son to take his place as the leader of the Viltrumites and guide their people toward a better future. His final words were that Mark had changed him, and now it was time to change the others. Nolan then died in Mark's arms. Mark didn't have much time to grieve, however, because there was still one final threat he needed to face, but that is a story for another video.
Robot?
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video on the channel. Make sure to check out the Invincible playlist for more breakdowns about the series. Thank you for watching, and
yes sir, yes sir. All right, man. That was a good one. Shout out to my boy TSAAVA. I don't know how to say that name. I'm not even going to try, but I will shout you out and make sure that you get all the credit that you deserve for this wonderful and amazing amazing video. But you guys, listen, man, I appreciate y'all coming in, hollering at me, checking me out today for this amazing video. Yo, the Viltrumites are fucking nuts, bro. Like I didn't know that it was like this. Like I literally did not know that shit was on this type of level as far as Invincible. Like this story gets deep and deep and deep, and I really want to explore more of it and then more of the Invincible lore. I appreciate y'all for coming in and checking me out and watching this video. And it will be on YouTube on my channel at Bryte Plays on YouTube. Probably edit it, chopped and screwed a little bit. Probably gonna put some, we're gonna put some razzle dazzle on that thing for y'all. But I appreciate y'all taking the time to come and holler at me, man. Peace, and I hope you guys have an amazing and wonderful rest of your day and the rest of your weekend. I'm sure I'll probably see y'all either today or tomorrow. Me and Diamond, well, we might get on some Call of Duty or something, or I might just have a horror game for y'all in store. So stay tuned. I'm starting this horror journey soon. So peace. I love y'all, and y'all have a good one. Okay.